afternoon, all of you. I can already feel the unstoppable force looking at this entire gathering.
सर रुकिए, ताली भी बजा देता हूँ. ताली बजाइए सर लोग. It's a packed house.
Yeah, packed house, packed house. So I've got a very, very august panel here, and I'm sure we'll all gather some very interesting insights. So I think between the three gentlemen sitting here, they manage close to 1 lakh crores of assets. And the topic today is unstoppable force, and I've structured it in 4 or 5 parts. The first part is really the interesting part because I do believe that we are all blessed to be living in such exciting times. Buffett always says that I think he was very lucky to be born in a country which was at the cusp of one of the biggest booms in history. And we do believe that India is at that stage. So we are all very, very lucky to be in such unprecedented times. In fact, the biggest crisis in human history actually laid the seeds of one of the biggest bull markets in financial services. So that's how interesting the markets, the economy looks. Now, let me start by laying the groundwork for this discussion. So this is a framework that was presented in 2007, the $1 trillion framework by Ramdev ji in his wealth creation study. And now this is a framework which is used by the entire industry and it's become very popular. Now if you look at this chart, we are currently close to $3.5 trillion GDP, and over the next few years, we'll actually add another $3.5 trillion. So that's how exponential the next 7 or 8 years look. So let me start with Naveen, and I will request him to elaborate as to how big this opportunity is, because what is happening in the next 9 years is what has happened in India over the last 70 plus years.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's remarkable the way this elephant is, running like a tiger is really very, is the reason why, whether it's Joe Biden or any European leader, Mr. Modi gets the warmest hugs and the warmest welcome, because this is the largest, one of the fastest growing markets, in the world. And by way of context, 1947, independence of India. 60 years later, 2007, we touched the first $1 trillion. The next $1 trillion takes 8 years. The third $1 trillion takes 7 years. The fourth will likely take 5 years, and then 4, 3. And by the turn of the decade, starting 2031, 32, what took 60 years to add, we will add on an annual basis, right? So that's dimension number 1. And where does that take us to? So we are ranked 6th largest country in the world. And at this pace of growth, sometime soon, we should be rank number 3. And when we say rank number 3, it'll not be like the next guy will be 10% lower than us. There's America, there's China, there's India, and the next one will be like, way below. Now, these may seem like a lot of mathematics to you, but to a businessman, this is fantastic opportunities across so many sectors. And if it is a great opportunity for a businessman, it is an even bigger opportunity for people in the stock markets, all of you, right? And for investors like us. So basically, I'm going to talk about a few such things that will unfold on the way, right? 140 करोड़ लोग हैं इंडिया में, और अगर $3.5 trillion का GDP है, तो we are roughly $2,500 per capita income, right? And as the GDP grows to $7 trillion, जब GDP double होगा, हमारी आबादी double नहीं होगी. We are growing at, let's say, 1.5% per annum. So this per capita GDP will become more than $5,000 by the turn of the decade. और जब आदमी पैसे ज़्यादा बनाता है, तो क्या करता है? तो first, before that, let me give you a few more numbers. अगर जब ये 5-5.5 हजार डॉलर पर कैपिटा इनकम होगा इंडिया का, तो ये जो अमीर लोग हैं जिनको लेट्स कॉल देम अबाउट $10,000 पर कैपिटा, ऐसे आज के दिन इंडिया में द नंबर ऑफ हाउस होल्ड्स हु अर्न मोर देन $10,000, ऐसे 7.5 करोड़ घर हैं इंडिया में. तो अगर आप देखें लग्जरी कार्स, फॉरेन हॉलीडेज, kids going abroad for education, staying in 5-star hotels, getting their treatment in Max Healthcare or Fortis or Apollo hospitals, all this is afforded by this smaller country, which is a 7.5 crore households. This number, in the next decade, by 2031, as the GDP doubles, right, this 7.5 crore households will triple, nearly become 3x to more than 20 crore households. Yani ki, if each of the household is consuming the same X, then that number will become 3x in the next 10 years. So this is a pretty big opportunity, and we believe that the traditional consumer companies are not the only way to play this. Basically, as you grow richer, that will drive discretionary consumption, that will drive retailing, that will drive QSRs, that will drive many, many more businesses. And that is why आप देखेंगे बहुत सारे नए businesses जो आज बहुत छोटे हैं, वो अगले 10 सालों में शायद 10 गुना रेवेन्यू हो सकते हैं. जब ये नंबर ऑफ हाउस होल्ड्स 3 गुना होंगे, right, there is a possibility of many of these companies becoming 10 times in terms of their size. तो जो हम बोलते हैं ना मल्टी बैगर, 10 बैगर, वो यही businesses होंगे, यहीं पे होंगे अगले 10 साल में, और बहुत सारे होंगे. So this is example number 1. Example number 2 is manufacturing. आज के दिन अगर आपके घर में कोई AC लगा है, आपके मोबाइल फोन, इंडिया में ये सारी चीजें इंपोर्ट होती थी. इनफैक्ट आफ्टर ऑयल द सेकेंड बिगेस्ट आइटम ऑफ इंपोर्ट्स इज कंज्यूमर ड्यूरेबल्स. एंड आफ्टर चाइना स्टार्टिंग टू फ्लेक्स देयर मसल्स and they probably want to become number 1 in the world realized that outsourcing the entire manufacturing to China is not a safe thing. And that brought in Make in India. That has brought in production linked incentive. Government $50 billion की production linked incentive बांट रहा है businessman को, जिससे कि वो world scale manufacturing capacities इंडिया में लगाएं. And we believe that manufacturing also, like the number of households I spoke about, $10,000 से ज़्यादा के घर जो आज 7 करोड़ हैं वो 20 करोड़ से ज़्यादा हो जाएंगे. उसी तरीके से मैन्युफैक्चरिंग जीडीपी जो आज 15% है, हमारे ये $3.5 ट्रिलियन की 15% मैन्युफैक्चरिंग है, ये 20% से ज़्यादा हो जाएगी. यानी कि मैन्युफैक्चरिंग जीडीपी इटसेल्फ विल ट्रेबल, 3 गुना होगा. और अगर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग जीडीपी ट्रेबल होगा तो बहुत सारी मेक इन इंडिया थीम्स शायद 8-10 गुना होंगी. केमिकल्स होगी, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग होगी, डिफेंस जो आज आप इंपोर्ट कर रहे हो, इंडिया का टारगेट है अगले 4-5 साल में $5 बिलियन का एक्सपोर्ट करेंगे. तो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग लाइक डिस्क्रिशनरी कंजम्पशन कुड बी अ वेरी बिग थीम. फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज, आज के दिन फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज अगर आप क्रेडिट पेनिट्रेशन इंडिया का देखें तो वो 35% है. रिटेल हाउस होल्ड डेट केवल 35% है. एंड द हेडरूम फॉर दैट टू ग्रो strongly is a lot, and there are many other ways to play it. Asset management companies, wealth management companies, brokerage companies, in sabka penetration should also increase in the coming years. So all I'm trying to say is that this linear opportunity of growth in the economy, of doubling of the GDP, is most likely going to throw many non-linear opportunities.
Fantastic, Naveen. I think that sets the ground for our discussion today. So as you can see, I mean, like Naveen elaborated, over the next, by the turn of this decade, I mean, this doubling of GDP is going to double the number of households which have incomes about $10,000. And triple, wow. And this is going to create a demand storm in many, many categories. So Amit, we were just discussing outside, and I think the common feedback that I hear from many investors is, अब तो Nifty 20,000 हो गया है, अब क्या होगा? Should we wait? Should we invest money now? But I remember our discussion back there, and you said अभी तो 4 ही महीना हुआ है, and this has a long way to grow. So I just want you to talk to us about how you see this next 5 years, 7 years, by 2030, given this exponentiality in GDP creation and per capita incomes going up. And I know that you track a lot of categories very, very closely. So which are those categories? I mean, which is the next 10x? I mean, everybody wants to know, agla 100 bagger kahan se aayega? So let me give you my mic till you get your mic.
Thank you so much, Ashish. One thing is very clear. It has taken us 75 years for this 3 trillion. The next 7-8 years, we'll move from 3 trillion to $6 trillion. More money will be made in next 7-8 years than that was made in last 75 years combined. The only question is, how much are we going to make? Question ये नहीं है कि होएगा कि नहीं होएगा. Question ये है that who will make how much? Not everyone gets rich together. ये तो capitalism ऐसा नहीं चलता है. Capitalism, a few people make it very, very large. A few companies make it very, very, very large. सब साथ में पैसे वाले नहीं बनते हैं. Now, coming to your question on which are categories that will do very, very well. Yeah, I personally think that I can see opportunities everywhere. We just have to think a little big. There's an old dialogue that I keep saying, छोटी सोच और पाँव की मोच ये आदमी को आगे नहीं बढ़ने देगी. We have to think big, yaar. We have to buy companies which are growing at 20-30% in every category. Like, think about it. In shoes, you've got Campus, who makes 100 crores of profits. You've got Relaxo, who makes 200 crores of profits. You've got Metro, who makes 300 crores of profits. Sab mila ke, all shoe companies in India, and then Bata at 300 crores, all shoe companies in India combined make $100 million of profit. China's one company, Li Nina, makes revenues of $25 billion and profits of $5 billion. In your apparel retail, आज आप बॉम्बे में आए हो, and I've heard that a lot of people are traveling from outside. You try going to local train, yaar, 95% people are not wearing branded clothes. All these guys will shift to branded clothes. And you have such good stories, yaar. You've got companies like Trent, where Zara भी बेचता है, West Side भी बेचता है, और Zudio भी बेचता है. सबको, जिसको जो चाहिए लो, पर लो मेरे से माल. Then you've got technology. India's total savings is 20% of GDP. India's total GDP is $3 trillion into 80, that is 250 lakh crores. Out of that, Indians save 50 lakh crores. 50 lakh crores is Indian savings every year. Then, where do these Indians invest? 9 lakh crore goes towards insurance companies every year, premium, 9 lakh crores. 50 lakhs is our saving. 50 lakh crores, 9 lakh crore goes towards insurance companies, 7 lakh is life insurance, 2 lakh crores is general insurance, then 4 lakh crores goes towards gold, 5-6 lakh crore goes towards class A real estate, 18 lakh crore goes towards bank FD. यहाँ पे mutual fund SIP बहुत सारे लोग करते हैं. 1.8 lakh crores, 15,000 crores a month. 1.8 lakh crore goes towards your SIP. Yeah, this number is going to double, triple. All your AMCs, all mutual funds combined in India. I'm just giving an example. All mutual funds combined in India make $1.1 billion of profit. All mutual funds combined in India make $1.1 billion of profit. एक hedge fund होता है US में, वही $1.5 billion, $2 billion कमा लेता है. एक छोटा hedge fund, not the biggest hedge fund. So all these, the opportunity, मैं तो जहाँ देखता हूँ वहाँ opportunity दिखता है. You need executors. Executors कम है. जिसमें ताकत है, क्या है? That if you start making 20-30 crores a year, you have already got your BMW, Audi, ghar, sab kuch to ho jata hai. Post 30 crores, it is not money that drives you. It is greed. It is greed to make it very, very, very large. And those are the kind of promoters we look at. And yes, the opportunity is large across cycle. You give me any sector. Insurance example, you've got 9 lakh crores of market. This market will become 18 lakh crores in next 5 years. Usme you can buy your insurance marketplace. You like HD, कोई पूरा buffet लगा पड़ा है. जितना कमाना कमाओ, जिसको जितनी ताकत है उतना कमाओ. I think the next 7-8 years, if we don't make it very, very, very large, and we cannot think 5-10% compounding, we have to make it large. So opportunity is there. अब कौन कितना कमाता है? It's on your hard work, and let's see.
Fantastic. So large opportunity. Hello? Yeah, so very, very large opportunity. A lot of work for all of us here to do. Hi, Prashant, welcome.
Thank you.
So, obviously, you know, as GDP doubles, Naveen spoke about the exponentiality of discretionary income. But obviously, you know, consumption and investments, they are two sides of the same coin. I mean, you can't use airline services unless you build airports. Or for that matter, if you don't build roads, India can't sell enough cars. So we need a lot of investments at scale. So wanted your opinion on what kind of infrastructure India needs to build. What is the opportunity for investors? And how do you look at this market? Because you have experience of having invested as an FPI earlier. You've seen developed markets. So wanted your thoughts around that.
Certainly. Thank you, Ashish. And first of all, thank you both Naveen ji, Ashish. And want to congratulate you both as well as Motilal ji and Ramdev ji. I see Motilal ji is there. I can't see where Ramdev ji is. He must be somewhere around here. You completed 36 years, I realized, just recently of founding.
So we were partying yesterday, so Ramdev ji.
Oh, you didn't call me for that one, huh? No, it's a very proud moment, I believe, for all of you. So again, heartiest congratulations. You are inspiration for people like us, like Amit and myself, to seek to do something in our industry. To your question, Ashish, yes, it's interesting thing I'd like to note. Whenever I travel to another country, I like to think how far is India from achieving this standard of living, particularly emerging markets. Abhi, yeah, US, Switzerland might take a very, very long time. I'm no longer naive as I was in school. तभी तो कोई TV या कुछ media exposure भी नहीं था. तो ऐसे लगता है 10-15 साल में will catch up with America. Huh? Obviously, as you grow up and understand things, you realize these things take ages, not so soon. But when I travel to countries like Turkey, Brazil, Peru, in course of doing research in emerging markets, I always think of if this country is 8,000 or 10,000 per capita GDP and India is 2,500 per capita GDP, so how long would it take, growing at about 6 to 7%, that the GDP is growing 5 to 6% जो per capita GDP grow हो रही है, तो करीबन 25 से 30 साल में reasonably speaking, hopefully, optimistically speaking, और जल्दी हो सकता है, but 25 से 30 साल में will reach level of well-being, standard of living that is similar to some of these countries like Brazil, Turkey, Peru and all. तो वहाँ पे जो consumption patterns है, वो देख के ऐसे अनुमान, because we are all investors, तो अनुमान लगाते रहते कि भी क्या चीज़ का consumption कहाँ पे ज़्यादा accelerate होगा. I'm sorry I missed Naveen ji's talk on consumer discretionary, but that certainly is one of the areas. अभी toothpaste तो कितना लोग 1 से 2 बार कर लेंगे over a couple of generations I guess, but कितना use होगा, growth उसमें जो है single digit ही आना है. But a lot of consumer discretionary items, not only products but services, including travel, entertainment and all, that is where the growth is going to be accelerated. Soap ka consumption mid single digits hoga, but face wash ka consumption would be in high double digits, high teens or so on. Auto sector hai, financial sector, India ka, I mean late 90s tak to obviously there was no such thing as a private financial sector. banking in particular. But since then, banking licenses were given out. So rapid improvement in availability of capital to across board consumption as well as investment ke liye. That's very critical component of now making a segue into infrastructure. So India has, first of all, very strong soft infrastructure. It has always had compared to other emerging markets. When I say soft infrastructure, it is the democratic institutions. Jo obviously there's a long way to go. Wahan pe bhi there are shortcomings. But in most emerging markets, there isn't a proper well-functioning democracy with institutions like independent central commission, independent judiciary, independent media, you know, these independent Supreme Court. Now, yes, there are shortcomings. India में सब कुछ perfect नहीं है, but वो सब कुछ perfect कहीं भी नहीं है. US में भी नहीं है. तो relative, we have to talk relative terms. ये infrastructure India में बहुत strong है, and that is the key reason, despite investors globally scratching their heads, why India trades at a very high premium to other emerging markets. India हमेशा 100% premium पे trade करता है compared to China, and emerging markets in general से 60-70% premium पे trade करता है, and that is primarily because of the soft infrastructure that India has maintained and sustained over the last 75 years since independence. Hard infrastructure अगर अपने बात करें, जो physical infrastructure है, जहाँ पे China has made rapid progress. See, that may or may not be, quite possibly that would be a value creating transformation. And India में भी काफी हो रहा है, physical infrastructure build हो रहा है, and that contributes to growth and contributes to increasing standard of living. But ये जो soft infrastructure है, जो समझो China में आज की तारीख में नहीं है, to go from, which is a proper democracy, to go from a authoritarian rule to a democracy may or may not be a value creating journey. It could be a highly turbulent and value destructive journey. So number one asset that we have is this soft infrastructure in the country. Standard of living के साथ साथ, you know, physical infrastructure भी आएगा, जैसे पिछले 20-30 सालों में आया है. And that I don't think currently is a hurdle to our growth. It is more a driver of growth and would remain so. The only thing to be wary of is कि अपना जो ये reforms on a regulatory side है, we should continue that. Otherwise that can form a bottleneck or create friction so high that the progress gets, the rate of growth gets curtailed.
Right. Thanks, Prashant. We've seen a lot of catalysts which have set the ground for this bull run or economic growth. We've seen digital infrastructure being upgraded at an exponential pace over the last few years. We've got a single tax structures. So are there any more catalysts that you feel, Naveen, that need to be in place for the growth to accelerate from here? Or if you could just highlight which are the big catalysts, according to you, which will be providing the ground for this kind of growth that we are expecting?
So India is very fortunate that we have one catalyst that has been keeping us going. You know, I keep repeating this example that, when Sensex was born back in on 1st of April 1979, 44 years back, that 100-point Sensex today is up 600 times. And that's despite India's shortcomings, despite, Kargil, despite, all the shortcomings that we have as far as the, political system is concerned. तो ये कैसे हो गया ये जादू जो 15% पर एनम 44 इयर्स से चल रहा है, ये जादू कैसे हो रहा है? ये PSUs से नहीं हो रहा है, ये MNCs से नहीं हो रहा है, ये इंडियन एंटरप्रेन्योर, इंडियन फाउंडर्स, इंडियन बिजनेसमैन से हो रहा है. तो आई थिंक इंडिया, apart from the points that Prashant mentioned, is blessed to have the diversity of an America in terms of sectors. हमारे पास IT services हैं, very robust healthcare system hai, right? Huge consumer sector hai. Not a bankrupt, a very strong financial system hai. Apart from, the other soft infrastructure that Prashant spoke about. But I think the real game changer in investing and for India is the Indian promoter, Indian entrepreneur, Indian founder, and India is blessed to have them kind of go business after business to create value. If you draw any examples, of India versus the rest of the world, you'll probably see that we have more competition, we have more regulation, we have everything difficult. And I think the real magician, who has created this wealth is really this Indian founder. So this is a catalyst. And when I talk about all the themes that we spoke about earlier, Amit spoke about it, Prashant spoke about it, I think when you marry those unfolding of a 3x, 4x, in the number of households about $10,000, in the manufacturing, in the number of hospital beds required, and so on, I mean, there is a shine in the eye of that businessman. He can see a 10x. Sometimes we may not be able to see that, but he sees it. And he puts the risk capital first. He slogs. All we have to do is to buy right and sit tight. So I think this is India is really fortunate. We are blessed to have this, breed of entrepreneurship, of founders in India. The other thing that I must highlight is that the penetration of digital, right, in America and China, which, we're talking about rivaling them at a point in time. I mean, Ramdevji did his, Amrit Kal study, where he spoke about, we all talk about this $3.5 trillion number. If this grows at a certain pace, where do we exit? Prashant spoke about $10,000. So we believe that by 2047, which is the year 100 from the independence of India, right, we should be at roughly $20,000 per capita, give and take. We should be roughly at $35 trillion GDP, which is way above where America is today, correct? And that's why Motilal Oswal as a group, and we would recommend all our franchisee partners to finish first. You have to first finish. You got to be around in that 2047, healthy, robust, strong. अगर आप उस वक्त वहाँ पे हैं, तो आप बहुत बड़े बन जाएंगे. And I think that's the resilience that the Indian founders or promoters bring. But turning to these two other economies, the share of digital in these economies and the share of growth driven by digital in these economies is amazing. And I think we've been fortunate that we had the benefit of Mr. Nandan Nilekani driving what is called digital public infrastructure, DPI, where he's put the network of Aadhaar identity for all the Indians. We have the bank accounts open, and we have Mr. Ambani, through Jio, driving abundant, cheap, data services which are world-class that is available here. With that kind of a backbone, with the kind of digital public infrastructure that the government has created, it cannot be that, digital will not play a big role in India eventually. And again, Ramdevji wrote his 26th wealth creation study called Atoms to Bits, and which talked about how the traditional investing parameters may not apply to this business, and a new mindset will need to be brought to these businesses. And what does it take to analyze this business? What does it take to invest in them? And after the busting of the hype cycle that we saw, and today you are aware that many of these unlisted digital companies are probably down 50, 60, 70, some 80, 90%. Many of them are now, suddenly from gaining more customers and losing more money, the game has changed to everybody hastening from Meesho to Swiggy to Paytm to Zomato. Everybody is guiding you for path to profitability. That has dawned on them. So we believe that digital, like it has played a very big role in wealth creation in America and in China, we believe that the same opportunity exists for India also. So I'm going to pause here and leave you with these two big catalysts which I think are relevant in this Amrit Kal. One, the Indian entrepreneurs, evergreen theme, bet on the jockey, not the horse. And the second is the digital companies. And if you bet on the right ones, we believe that these are among the few assets which can cater to the entire 150 crore population that India will have during this Amrit Kal.
Fantastic. Well put, Naveen. I think the biggest asset India has got is the quality of the entrepreneurs we see in the country. So, Amit, you track companies very closely. Now, we've seen that, when the during the dot-com era in 2000, a lot of companies went up and, we saw a bubble. After that, a lot of companies lost 95%. But that sowed the seeds for the next bull market in digital companies. I mean, we've seen some of the biggest wealth creators getting created because of that dot-com moment. Now, we've had a similar moment where you've had a lot of these digital companies going public. A lot of them have lost, 2/3 of their value. Do you see any big wealth creators in this space over the next 7-8 years? I mean, can a Zomato become 10x? Can a Paytm become 10x from here?
So, Ashish ji, I'll give you an example. In year 2000, revenue of Infosys was 800 crores. In year 2000, revenue of Infosys was 800 crores. Today, revenue of Infosys is 1.5 lakh crore this year. Revenue of HUL in year 2000 was 11,000 crores. Today, revenues of HUL is 55,000 crores. Infosys became 200 times bigger. HUL became 5 times bigger. These digital companies, it's like a marathon. And we have reached, in my humble opinion, the top 10 world's largest market cap company in the US. That 9 out of 10 companies are tech companies in US. Top 10 companies in China. 7 companies are tech companies. When we look in 2030, I'm fairly sure that out of the top 10 companies that we have in India, 7 or 8 will be tech company. Every company will become a tech company. That is what I think. Now the whole thing is who's going to make it very, very, very large. It's like a 40-kilometer marathon, and we are at kilometer 1 trying to bet that who's going to make it very large. It is very difficult today to say that who will become large. You have to keep seeing the journeys that like every 2-3 years you can take a view that today, example, Mithwa in China does 2,800 crore orders a year. 2,800 crore orders Mithwa does every year. Zomato last year did 60 crore orders. Swiggy did 56 crores orders. So they are at 120 crore orders right now. In 5 years, you've seen UPI going from 0 to 12 lakh crore a month. 12 lakh crore is UPI a month. That same game can happen in lending. That is the way that their Paytm is trying to make money. Lending, Paytm in 2 years has gone from 0 to now doing 5,000-6,000 crores of loans a month. Can he do? India's total banking system loan book is about 130 lakh crores. Disbursement every year is closer to 100 lakh crores. Can Paytm become 1, 2, 3, 4%? These are all high churn loans. So we need to track execution like Nykaa. The growth slowed down very aggressively. Pre-IPO it used to grow at 70-80%. Because they tried to become profitable, the growth has slowed down. Now Nykaa doesn't grow at 70-80%. They've pivoted but tech companies, think about it. Nykaa does today 3.5 crore orders on beauty. 3 years back, they started fashion business, and in no time, Nykaa's GMV, the gross merchandise value of fashion, is 2,500 crores. This is where Westside was 3 years, 4 years back. It took Westside 20 years to reach 2,500 crores. If you fundamentally think about it, Page revenues, Page Industries Jockey revenues are 4,000 crores. Nykaa in no time has reached 2,500 crores, and it's just getting started without burning a lot of capital. So I'm very confident that there'll be massive multi-baggers, and all these companies, Paytm, everyone was excited at $20-30 billion. to, today at 3, 4, 5 billion dollars, no one wants to look at it. So, you know, वक्त बदलता है, and tech cycles are 7, 8 years long. And I would say that the ones who make it, they will make, like how we have $1 trillion market caps in the US. Apple is at 3 trillion, Microsoft at 2.5 trillion, Nvidia at now $1 trillion plus. Some entrepreneurs will make it very, very, very large. I just don't know which one.
Fantastic. I think this is a very potent combination. The exponentiality of growth, the quality of entrepreneurs, couple that with the digital infra that India has built, which is second to no other country. Now, coming to a couple of other opportunities. I mean, we spoke about digital, we spoke about the soft infrastructure that India has built, we spoke about the quality of founders that we have. We keep hearing about this China plus one opportunity. We keep hearing about the fact that every global company is trying to diversify its supply chain, more so after COVID. Do you really see this translating into non-linear opportunities for Indian entrepreneurs? Do you really see execution happening here?
Certainly, Ashish, at this time, no doubt, the real economy as well as equity markets are benefiting from the China plus one. See, the last time global companies, be it global 1,000, 5,000, whatever Fortune companies, the last time they were so focused on India, in my view, was 2005, 6, 7 time frame. When the brick story, the brick phenomenon was in full rage. I was at that time in the US, so mujhe yaad hai when I would be on calls, Cisco ka earnings call or other tech companies or other sectors ka earnings calls, the analyst community would ask the CEOs and all, what is your brick strategy on earnings call? Yeah. The same question in the boardrooms, board members would be asking to the CEO MD, what is your brick strategy? So the management had to then follow suit, क्योंकि अगर उनको कहा जाता है कि आपका ये competitor इंडिया जा रहा है, चाइना जा रहा है, रशिया जा रहा है, ब्राजील जा रहा है, ये दूसरा competitor जा रहा है, so they also start thinking what the fear of missing out starts building up, and they also start putting their beachheads in these various places, and that's why a lot of foreign companies came to India in that 2005-7 time frame. उसके बाद में this is the next time that I see the same kind of real world focus, not just equity market focus, but the real world focus amongst corporate boardrooms globally, amongst investor community globally. And this is all, so the entire ecosystem feeds on each other. Sirf equity market people or investors are not excited about India, but they also see, and each of them, you know, act as boosters to the other. They also see corporate world, corporate leaders excited about India. They also see geopolitical leaders talking about, you know, India's importance. So hence, you are seeing this second wave. Now, I would think of it as second wave after the 2005, 6, 7 time frame, when global companies from US, Europe, elsewhere, they are focused on India as a number one destination for their business operations. Forget about what's going in equity markets, but for their business operations. It obviously is aided by China plus one, because it's been coming in trickles over time. Trump gave it a big boost. Yeah, whether you like Donald Trump or not, his presidency did benefit India in this respect, because he had very strong rhetoric against China. So corporate America had to take notice. He was imposing tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers against China. So there was risk of escalating costs of supply chain that were rooted in China. And so corporates started exploring alternatives. And then following that, there was this whole COVID pandemic and their zero COVID policy, which made life miserable for many companies around the world because their supply chains were disrupted, which also caused, one of the root causes of inflation. That again prompted boardroom discussions on how we avoid potential such situation next time. Business continuity planning if this were to happen again. So again, they started looking all around in particularly other Asian countries from Vietnam to Malaysia to Thailand and India as well. And now with the Russia-Ukraine war, that again has raised this question and made it front and center, because there is brewing tension all the time between China and Taiwan. And with the development where Xi Jinping has got an unprecedented third term, so he's president for almost till as long as he might live, this geopolitical tension doesn't seem like going away soon. So India becomes a geopolitical safe haven as well. When was the last time? I don't remember hearing that before the last couple of years. So all these have come together, and add to that the fact, as Naveen ji was earlier pointing out, the rapid growth of the domestic Indian market we expect. So that makes India, or India's course on that front, a few steps ahead of Malaysia, Taiwan, Thailand, Indonesia and all those. The one problem, the negative point in India is still that we are still only 62nd ranked on ease of doing business. Yeah, we can certainly feel very good about climbing from 143 to 62nd. But cricket में तो अपने को second होना भी मंजूर नहीं है. Right? If we don't win the World Cup, we are all disappointed. Where something as important as ease of doing business, while we should feel proud of coming from 143 to 62, we really have to get to top 10. And if we do get to top 10, yes, what Naveen ji mentioned, outlined 35 trillion economy, that's very much within reach by the 100th Independence Day, because I believe that translates to 9% real growth, which is not far-fetched.
Absolutely. And that also means that on a $325 trillion global economy, you are now like over 10% of the world compared to 3% today.
No, absolutely. So this is, if we have to continue, obviously the good work on this front in terms of climbing from 143 to 62 over the last 10 years was a long way to go. If people have 61 other options ahead of you, then you have to be that much more compelling as an opportunity in other ways to overcome that disadvantage.
Yeah, thanks, Prashant. Obviously, let's talk about what does it mean for all of us sitting here in this room. And there were few numbers that really struck me since yesterday. We had our 36th Foundation Day at the same venue yesterday, and Ramdeji was telling us when Motilal Oswal started as a firm, the total turnover in the Indian stock markets, this is 36 years back, was 200 crores, right? Today you do 4 lakh crores. I mean, the market has expanded 2 lakh times, right? The second number that I still cannot get my head around is just pre-COVID, you had about 3 crore demat accounts. Today you have 12 crore demat accounts, right? And often in our career, you know, as over the years, we used to keep hearing that when domestic investors are investing, FIs are selling. When FIs are investing, domestic investors are selling. But are we now ready for a Jugalbandi where both of them are actually competing to get a piece of the action? So I want to ask Naveen, I mean, he runs a mutual fund, a PMS business, an index fund business, as to how big do you think this opportunity can become, and what does it mean for all the people sitting in this room? What should they be doing to capture a large part of this flow?
Actually, I think all of you should pray that, the FIs who invested $7.5 billion in the last few months remain a little muted on India, because पहली चाल तो उन्होंने ही चली है. If you see HDFC Bank, they used to own like 74% of the equity of those highest performing financial services firms for the last 30 years, right? And for a change, we saw their holding come down, and for a change, we stood up to that selling because we realized finally that our asset allocation is quite messed up. Today, out of the total wealth of India, which is estimated at about $11-12 trillion as per RBI, 800 lakh crore, 800 से 900 lakh crore रुपयों में हमारा favorite asset class, in India is real estate, gold and fixed income. और हमारा जब इनसे मन भर जाता है, when we are kind of fed up of investing in these 3 asset classes, then a lot of India thinks that stock market is a speculative place, although that is changing, courtesy many of our partners like you, 6,000 franchisee partners all over the country growing year after year. I think you've done a phenomenal job of educating the investors in terms of, the long-term potential, the value creation through buy right, sit tight, and so on and so forth. So I think this is a very happy situation. Today, 5% of India's wealth, just 5% of this 900 lakh crores is allocated to equities. It is rising every year, but I think this is a seriously long way to go. And I think it doesn't matter, whether the world views us positively or negatively. The world wants to overweight us or underweight us. I think broadly, an economy which grows at 9%, if you bet on the right promoters, you can grow at 15%, maybe even more, right? And if you grow at 15%, I think that is way better than the returns that any other asset class can offer you. And I think this correction will take a very, very long time in the portfolios of India. And I think this is a phenomenal opportunity. So that is one. Also, we see with all these themes, right, and we spoke about India's superior soft infrastructure, the democracy, the capitalism. I mean, in China, a businessman can disappear. Why businessman? Any politician can also disappear, right? That doesn't happen in India. Laws can change in India also, but they don't change overnight where a stock is down 80% or the market is down 50, 60%, correct? And I think that is something that global investors will come to realize. And as we become more salient in terms of economy, in terms of domestic consumption, in terms of financial services, in terms of healthcare, in terms of export of IT services and many other services going forward, and maybe someday even more manufacturing exports from India, I think the variety of themes that are available, the quality of founders that are available, the soft infrastructure that is available, there is a huge correction that they will also have to make in their global asset allocation eventually. I think this Lollapalooza effect, as Charlie Munger says, will unfold someday. I just pray that that doesn't happen very soon so that all of you sitting in the room and your clients can accumulate enough equity assets, can reallocate a little bit more from the 4.8% that India has allocated to equities today. So I really think that we have an important role. All of us have a very important role to educate the investors, to clear their misconceptions, to guide them through or handhold them through this whole investing journey. And I think if we can do that, that is the biggest CSR apart from all the other CSR that we do for this nation.
Thanks, Naveen. And I'm just reiterating some of the numbers. A lot of numbers have been thrown today by the panel as well. I mean, the easiest framework to think about how much wealth there is in the country is 3 to 4x of GDP. So our GDP is about $3 trillion. So the total wealth of Indian households is about $12 trillion. Now, if you take the Amrit Kal journey, which Ramdevji had outlined for us, our GDP could reach close to $25-30 trillion now. $35 trillion. So the wealth of households could be about $140 trillion. It goes up to 5 to 6 times. Absolutely. 5 to 6 times as the income levels go up. So we are already in the right place at the right time. So I wanted to ask Prashant, I mean, you've had a ringside view of looking at global wealth firms, right? You've seen how they operate, the scale at which they operate. So what are the kind of capabilities, or what should people in this room do to ensure that they capture a fair share of this flow over the next 10, 15 years? I mean, if there are some best practices that you've observed from global wealth firms or people who are managing money?
No, very, very good question. I think in my observation, and certainly Ashish, as you pointed out, I've, marketed in this global European and other markets for a lot longer. I was very pleasantly, I shouldn't say surprised, but really liked when I saw, as I traveled more over here, that the Indian wealth management industry is not really in the core, in the substance of it, is not any different and not behind. We are, very much, practicing the best practices that I have seen anywhere in the world. And on that front, also SEBI as a regulator. Obviously, I talked about regulatory friction and all that earlier, but that's not true across board of the numerous regulators, right, in every country, including in India. I would say SEBI as a regulator has done a very fine job in this front in helping and enabling this catch up with the global standards in Indian wealth management industry as well. So Ashish, sorry, but I don't have many differentiated insights. I think we are up there along with global peers when it comes to wealth management.
Great, great. That's a big endorsement to all of us here. So Amit, looking at it from the lens of a fund manager or as an analyst, now whilst digital is a big opportunity, it is also a threat for many of us here because digital will change the way wealth management also operates. So what should we be wary of, or where should people invest to ensure that they don't get disrupted, or rather they become the disruptors?
So Ashish, first of all, I think we are, first on the industry size, we are exactly where US was in 1982. US, India mutual fund, equity mutual fund market, if I'm not wrong, is $200 billion today, 16 lakh crores. US in 1982 was $200 billion. And that time their GDP was also $3 trillion, broadly around that. Between 1982 to 2000, US went from $3 trillion to $10 trillion. In that 18-year period, hear this carefully. In 18 years, US went from $3 trillion to $10 trillion. The mutual fund industry out there went from $150, $200 billion in 1982 to $7 trillion, $7 trillion by year 2000. The penetration of people investing in the markets, as of today we have 15 crore mutual fund folios, 6.2 crore SIP every month. But unique number of investors is 3.5% on mutual funds. The penetration is exactly same where it was in US at 3.5%. This penetration in the US went to 50% by year 2000. I'm not saying it will be 50%. I'm just telling you how US did this journey. Coming to the disruptions, what Ashish ji asked me. And the bull markets are very secular when this happens, when local money comes in. Coming to disruptions. See, we are in a world of technology. You have to be ahead of the game. And disrupt, like, the wealth industry. You're speaking in the wealth industry or the mutual fund industry? Both.
I mean, financial services. I mean, we have a geo moment? We've just had an announcement a couple of days back.
See, fundamentally, this is what I fundamentally believe. And this is how business should be done. This is my fundamental belief that if you create value for your customers will come to you. Someone told me the other day that, you know what, 70% of active mutual funds underperform the market. But then I was speaking about 100% of passive ETFs underperform the market. Because passive ETFs is whatever your index minus your fees, right? I believe even in the US market, it's 33% passive, and I believe models will get developed around this, but passive and active both are going to do very well for both wealth managers. The brokerage industry is the largest profit pool generator in this entire pool of financial service. It's lending. So financial services can be divided in three parts. Lending, of course, that's the largest profit pool. In short, your protection, the second largest, and the third largest is savings, which is what we all deal in. I don't see the yields will keep getting lower. In brokerage also, yields every year have got lower, but the size expands multiple times. And that is what finance is all about, that more tech comes, percentage yields will keep coming down, but size will keep growing very, very, very large. So that is what I fundamentally feel. But tech, it's about scale, and you have to scale up fast.
Fantastic. I think before I take closing thoughts, we would have time for Q&A. Yeah? Pardon? Okay, so I think if you put your hands up, we can reach a mic to you. And please, ask your question and let us know which panelist the question is for. I can see a hand up there, here. Yeah. In the meanwhile, can we also get a mic this side? Because I saw a hand up here as well.
So I have two questions for Mr. Amit. First of all, Amit, a big fan. So my first question is, your views on IT sector. Do you think large cap ITs will still perform, or should the focus to be shifted to mid cap and small cap ITs? And the second question is, as we all know, large cap has now become extra large cap and mid cap is now large cap. Should small time investor focus on micro and small cap, or large caps are still lucrative?
So it's investor to investor. I don't manage 50,000 crores, my views might be different. If I manage 2 lakh crores, my views can be very different. But I fundamentally believe that India's GDP growth collection is 14% CAGR. India's GDP growth collection is 14% CAGR for last 5 years. If my company doesn't grow at 14% and I have it in my portfolio, I will not have a sleep only that night because we are growth investors by nature. So if a company doesn't grow at 20% or 18 to 20% and if I don't see the earnings doubling in 3.5, 4 years, I don't invest in that company. Large cap IT as of today, I believe. So of course, Infosys came with a guidance of 1 to 3.5%. But at the same point, you have companies like Coforge and Persistent who are guiding for 13 to 16% dollar growth. That means you have 20% free cash flow growth. So those are the kind of bets that I would look at. And also you come to know who's, see, in a good cycle, everyone went up together. In a bad cycle, you come to know who's more fragile and who's less fragile. The ones who do well in this bad cycle will lead the next bull market again. So small cap IT, I don't know, but mid cap IT, of course, you should have in your radar. These are tough times for the sector, but there will be a time where the sector will bottom out. Very soon it will probably bottom out. The earnings will come later. The stock prices will bottom out before. That was the first question. I don't remember the second question. My apologies.
Second question was mid cap, micro cap, large cap.
See, you need growth. So example.
Micro cap.
See, I don't chase mid cap, large cap, small cap. What I'm chasing is growth. Example. If I'm just giving you, like ICICI Bank is growing at 20%. I'm just giving an example, no recommendations. If ICICI Bank is growing at 20%, I'm not going to buy a federal bank, which is growing at 15, 16%. For me to go small cap, to buy a 5-star, the 5-star needs to grow at 35, 40%. I only buy small caps if I see 30, 40% growth. Why would I take liquidity risk for 20% growth? I don't have to be in a small cap. Small caps, you have to still be a market leader. So if we buy a luxury watch company, it has to be dominant. See, no small cap becomes mid cap or large cap without market leadership. See the last 10 years. Bajaj Finance, it was a market leader in consumer finance. वो ही बड़ा बना. Page Industry, वो market leader starting से ही था. वो बड़ा बना. Astral, वो starting से ही market leader था with Lubrizol. If small caps and mid caps who become like small to mid can never happen without market leadership. Like not never, but it doesn't happen without market. So what you want in a small cap is market leadership, large opportunity size and high growth. Don't go for 15, 20%. You need 30, 40% growth in small caps. अगर 30, 40% small size में growth नहीं कर पा रहा है, तो large size तो बनेगा कैसे? हमको तो scale up खेलना है. So there is startup stage, वो VC लोग करते हैं, हमारा काम नहीं है. Then there is scale up, where you are dominant and you are scaling at 30, 40%. That is where emerging monopolies, the largest money is made. And then you have the mature stage, where if your product cycles are very long, then you can make some money, or else you don't make money in mature stage. And then decline, of course. Yeah, sorry.
Can we have the next question? Yeah, I think there are two hands here. if someone can get... yeah, please.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My question is to Prashant Khemka, sir. I have two questions to you, sir. One is that as a portfolio manager, we adopt two kinds of approach. One is a concentrated approach and one is a diversified approach, right? So whenever we study, we used to see that very few companies become multi-bagger, but still we have a lot of companies in the portfolio. So what is right, concentrated or a very huge diversified portfolio? Second is, what is the future of green hydrogen in coming years as a mega trend?
So I can't see where Ramdevji is seated here, but if he is somewhere here, he might recollect this topic we discussed for quite extended time in a meeting in Singapore about 10 years ago. I was still at my prior firm. So I've always believed the number of names have nothing to do with return from a portfolio. There are markets like US which are extremely liquid. It might make sense for somebody to have more concentrated portfolio. In a market like India, if you're managing any reasonable amount of money, or let's say if you're managing, say, tens of thousands of crores of money, and if you restrict yourself to a concentrated portfolio, then you would restrict yourself to a very suboptimal universe of stocks. Yeah? So, sab koi, I think, can agree here कि अल्फा इज हाईएस्ट इन स्मॉल एंड मिड कैप्स. ये जरूरी नहीं है कि स्मॉल और मिड कैप आउट परफॉर्म करेंगे लार्ज कैप को. एंड बाय द वे, ये क्वेश्चन मुझे पिछले 17 सालों में 1700 बार मैंने आंसर किया, और हर बार मैं कहता हूँ कोई दिन इस पे बुक लिखूंगा, दो आई डोंट थिंक वेदर आई विल बी आई एम फिट फॉर राइटिंग अ बुक, बट सर्टनली क्योंकि मेरा हमेशा इन पोर्टफोलियो माई स्टॉक्स हैज बीन 75 to 100 names in my team's portfolio, and performance is there to see, and there is ample evidence. I've often asked someone to cite me hard evidence which suggests कि concentrated portfolios do better. क्योंकि small and mid cap में आपको invest करना है, and if you are managing any respectable size which you would get to if your performance is good, then if you are managing a 10-20 name portfolio, you would not be able to invest in small caps. क्योंकि आप अगर 20 नाम का पोर्टफोलियो तो 5% एवरेज है, समझो आप 20,000 करोड़ मैनेज कर रहे हो, 5% इन्वेस्ट करना है तो 1,000 करोड़ रुपया इन्वेस्ट करना पड़ेगा. आज कितनी कंपनियों में इंडिया में आप 1,000 करोड़ इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हो? 1,000 करोड़ इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए वो कंपनी का मार्केट कैप 15-20 हजार करोड़ होना चाहिए, राइट? 15-20 हजार करोड़ यानी वो ऑटोमेटिकली मिड कैप में आ गया. सो स्मॉल कैप्स आपने पूरा इग्नोर कर दिया. जो अमित भाई साहब ने कोफोर्ज और परसिस्टेंट का नाम लिया, वो आज आप देखोगे आफ्टर देव रन अप 7-8 times, you would not be looking at those names when they were 5,000 crores, 3,000 crores, 8,000 crores. After they've become multi-baggers, then तो वो question multi-baggers पे था. In fact, you would miss out on multi-baggers in the Indian context if you are running a concentrated portfolio at 10-20,000. तो इसलिए हम लोग का लास्ट वेबिनार जो था हमारा वाइटोक का, तो उसमें मैंने, क्योंकि देखो इंडियन फंड मैनेजर्स बोलते हैं ना, तो आप लोग कोई विश्वास करता है नहीं करता है, भूल जाता है, बोलते हैं ये तो ऐसे ही बोलते हैं. तो आजकल एक फैशन है अपने इंडस्ट्री में कि फॉरेन फंड मैनेजर्स को कोट करते हैं. कोई गोरा या फिरंगी फंड मैनेजर बोलता है तो विश्वास जल्दी आता है. बराबर बोल रहा हूँ ना आशीष? नवीन जी बिल्कुल ठीक है ना? तो पहली बार मैंने लाइफ में अपने वेबिनार में एक फॉरेन फंड मैनेजर, बहुत ही नामी, आप सब जानते हो कि पीटर लिंच, उसकी जो बुक है वन अप वॉल स्ट्रीट, उसमें से कोट किया है. उसमें एक सेक्शन है जो उसका हेडिंग है, और हमारे टीम मेंबर ने जो आइडेंटिफाई किया, थैंकफुल टू हिम. सेक्शन का नाम है हाउ मेनी स्टॉक्स आर टू मैनी. उसमें पीटर लिंच is quoted saying that when he first took over the Magellan Fund and he went into the meeting with Ned Johnson. Johnson is the family member of the Johnson family who founded Fidelity and the head man at Fidelity. So Johnson told Peter Lynch, when he was handing over the portfolio to Peter Lynch, there were 40 stocks in the portfolio, $20 million fund. So he said to Peter Lynch, I think 40 stocks are too many, you should cut them down to 25. That portfolio was underperforming over the prior 5 years by 1% or so. What Peter Lynch says then in the book, I listened quietly, I went out and raised the number of stocks to 60 within the next 6 months, to 100 within the next 12 months, and over 150 over the next 2 years. And during his 13 years that Peter Lynch managed Magellan Fund, he delivered 27% return compared to S&P ka 13% return. 14% outperformance annualized in a market like US for a span of 13 years. That's why he's considered one of the best managers of all times. And his average number of stocks were 200 names, average during that 14-year time period. So I'm very glad my team members found that piece of proof, because it's an American fund manager. Believe people now take my argument and give more credibility to it.
Great. So many routes to Nirvana, many routes to Alpha. Right? Absolutely. So we have time for one last? Yeah, okay. One last. I don't know.
Sir, as you have said, right now that huge market opportunity is still lying, and we are just getting a tip of right now iceberg. My question is that as we are living in India with the largest democratic country, with large population and the largest economy, and if we will talk about the economy, it is major portion is belong to secondary and tertiary town. But still, if we will go to the secondary and tertiary town, the myths, the fear is still in the customer's mind or the investor's mind. So as a company, are you having any plan to take the initiative or any key strategies to tap those untapped market?
Naveen,
Actually, my friend, the story of Motilal Oswal is that only. If you see, some of you who have who are going to take away the awards today, where are they from? For the longest time, one of my top award winners used to be from Bihar. Who goes there? I mean, you may think nobody invests there. You know, there's a very tiny, one of my friends here sitting, one of the franchisees is from a place, a very big place called Biawar in Rajasthan. वो हमारा one of the biggest franchisees है, smartest भी है. He must be here somewhere sitting, in the audience. So ये Biawar, Bihar, Siliguri, this is the story of Motilal Oswal. We are at 6,000 franchisees, and we are not happy that we think this family is very, very small. And I think in today's day and age, I am very confident that the tier 2, tier 3 towns and even smaller places, you will see this wave of financialization. Amit spoke about, $7 trillion. अगर आपको ये आज 40 लाख करोड़ का म्यूचुअल फंड इंडस्ट्री है, 40-45 लाख करोड़ का, 20 लाख इक्विटी AUM, बाकी डेट फिक्स इनकम AUM, इसको अगर आपको 7 ट्रिलियन छोड़िए 1 ट्रिलियन पे भी लेके जाना है, तो ये सेकंड टियर टाउन्स, थर्ड टियर टाउन्स का बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल है. इनफैक्ट we've always found that the competition, in these smaller markets, we have Nagpur sitting out there, as one of our biggest. So I can see so many faces here, from all over the country. But basically, अगर आप देखें तो उस market में the role that you play is quite amazing. And I've been very surprised also, by the way, that some of these small places, we thought that the ticket sizes, the portfolio sizes may be small. But एक 1,000 करोड़ का portfolio in a small town होना भी आज के दिन, possible है. I mean, UP, for instance, there is a place where आपको गाड़ी छोड़ के 1.5 किलोमीटर अंदर चलना पड़ता है और मालूम पड़ा कि वो क्लाइंट 2-2.5 हज़ार करोड़ रुपया लेके बैठा हुआ है. So this is India really, it is a land of surprises, and every time that Motilal Oswal, thinks of penetrating deeper, we feel that the unfinished agenda is really, very, very big. So we feel that, there's a lot to do, and that's why we've, sir, हमने ये Motilal Oswal WCS.com एक इन्वेस्टर एजुकेशन इनिशिएटिव के लिए सारी वेल्थ क्रिएशन स्टडीज़ डाली है, रामदेव जी के वीडियोस डाले हैं, हमारे सारे फ्रेमवर्क्स डाले हैं. ये इसीलिए डाले हैं कि ये सारे लोग जो टियर 2, टियर 3 टाउन्स में हैं, ये इनको देख के वो सारी चीज़ें सीख सकें. फॉर्मल एजुकेशन तो है नहीं स्टॉक मार्केट का. एंड वी बिलीव दैट Motilal Oswal हैज़ प्लेड एन इम्पॉर्टेंट रोल एज अ फर्म एंड विल कंटिन्यू टू प्ले a very important role in the process of investor education. Thank you.
Thanks, Naveen. So I'll just sum up, few key points for all of us here. the size of opportunity, the size of growth, the scale is going to be unprecedented in the next 7-8 years. The total pool of savings that is going to come your way is again going to be massive, and in a lot of categories is going to create a demand storm. So it is like a buffet. I mean, we heard all the panelists here. There are multiple sectors, multiple opportunities. So ये buffet है. So you need to, or all of us need to create an appetite for the kind of choices that are coming our way. And like I said, it's going to be very, very interesting. It's going to be very, very exponential. So we are already blessed to be at the right place at the right time. And lifespans are increasing. I mean, a lot of you are going to live till the age of 100 and maybe more. So the scale and size of wealth creation is going to be amazing over the next 20-25 years. So with that, I think we can wrap up the discussion. Thank you very much. I think my job was very easy because I had such eminent panelists in the discussion. I hope all of you enjoyed and took away some insights for your own businesses. Thank you very much.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.